Commander Alex Morgan stood at the observation deck of Earth's diplomatic vessel, the Starbound Envoy. He watched the massive Galactic Council station as it orbited the neutral star Epsilon Centauri. The station looked like a giant metal flower, with 5 huge petals stretching outward. Lights flickered across its surface like thousands of fireflies. Humanity had spent 30 years trying to join the Galactic Council. For 30 years they had been denied and kept as mere observers. The various alien races, the tall, blue-skinned Valturi, the insect-like Shintar, the glowing Erosians, and many others, had repeatedly voted against Earth. They always said the same things. Humans were too aggressive or too unpredictable to join their group. The observation deck was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Stars filled the view beyond the station. Alex ran his hand through his short brown hair and sighed. Another denial was coming. He could feel it. Captain Sophia Wright approached from behind. Her boots made soft tapping sounds on the metal floor. Her normally calm face showed signs of frustration. "They're ready for us," she said. "But don't get your hopes up." The Valturi ambassador was smirking when I passed him in the hallway. Alex turned away from the window. 30 years of peace treaties, shared technology, and help to developing worlds, he said quietly. And they still treat us like children playing with matches. Sophia nodded. "I know. But orders are orders. We smile, we bow, and we ask politely again." Together they walked through the ship's corridors. Crew members stepped aside and nodded respectfully as they passed. Everyone knew what was at stake. Earth needed allies in space. Being kept outside the Council meant limited trade, restricted travel zones, and less protection from potential threats. Lieutenant Kate Peters waited for them near the airlock. She was young, smart, and one of Earth's best communication experts. Her job was to listen to both what was said and what wasn't said during council meetings. "All communications are ready, sir," she said to Alex. "I'll be monitoring everything and sending real-time updates to Secretary Miller back home." "Good," Alex said. "Keep your ears open. Something feels off today." The 3 humans, along with a 4th team member, Dr. Eric Bell, stepped into the transport shuttle that would take them to the council station. Dr. Bell was Earth's leading expert on alien cultures. He was older than the others, with gray hair and kind eyes behind simple glasses. "Ready for another round of polite rejection?" Dr. Bell asked with a small smile. "Maybe the 97th time's the charm," Sophia replied. The shuttle ride was short and silent. Each team member was lost in their own thoughts. When they arrived, they were met by a Delvarian guide. The Delvarians were insect-like beings with 4 arms and large, compound eyes. This one's exoskeleton was a soft green color. "Welcome, Earth representatives," the Delvarian said. "Please follow me to the observer section." They walked through the grand hallways of the station. The ceilings were high, the walls covered with art from 100 worlds. Other alien species moved through the halls. Some nodded politely to the humans. Others pretended not to see them. The council chamber itself was enormous. It was shaped like a bowl with seats arranged in circles. The inner circles were for full council members. The outer circles were for observer species like humans. From their seats they could see but not speak unless directly addressed. "Remember," Alex whispered to his team, "we're here to listen and learn, not just to plead our case. Watch for anything unusual." The chamber filled with representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations. The Valturi High Minister, Zex Valerin, sat in the most prominent position. He was tall, with blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. His long fingers were decorated with rings showing his high status. Kate activated her small recording device. It looked like a simple pin on her uniform, but it could pick up conversations from across the room. She also wore a small earpiece connected to Earth's defense systems. The meeting began with usual business. Trade agreements were approved. Territorial disputes were settled. Scientific missions were authorized. Each time, full council members voted. Earth and other observer species simply watched. Finally, Earth's application came up on the agenda. Alex straightened in his seat. This was the moment they had prepared for. Zex Valerian stood, his blue robes flowing around him. His voice was smooth and deep. Once again, we consider the application of the species from Sol III, known as humans, he said. Once again, we must evaluate if they are ready for the responsibilities of full council membership. He gestured to a large screen where images of Earth appeared. This species continues to demonstrate concerning militaristic preparations, he continued. While they smile and offer friendship with one hand, they build warships with the other. The screen showed images of Earth's defense fleet. The ships looked larger and more threatening than they actually were. The images were clearly chosen to make Earth look dangerous. Alex felt his face grow warm with anger, but he kept his expression neutral. This was nothing new. The Valturi always painted Earth as a threat. What Zex Valerian didn't know was that Kate had recently intercepted strange messages between several council species. The messages were encrypted, but Earth's best codebreakers had been working on them. Something wasn't right, and humanity was running out of patience. As the Valturi continued his speech against Earth, Kate subtly touched her earpiece. Her eyes widened slightly. She leaned over to Alex and whispered something in his ear. Alex's expression didn't change, but he gave a tiny nod. This meeting was about to become much more interesting than anyone expected. The vote was held. Once again, Earth's application was denied. The Valturi, Shintar, and Erosians all voted against them. Some species abstained. Only a few voted in favor. As they left the council chamber, Alex was unusually quiet. Sophia walked beside him, concerned by his silence. "Same result, different day," she said quietly. Alex looked at her, his eyes intense. "Maybe. But Kate just received something important from home. We need to get back to the ship immediately." "What is it?" Sophia asked. "Not here," Alex whispered. "Too many ears. But I'll tell you this much. Earth is done waiting for the Council's approval. We've found something that changes everything." Back on Earth, Defense Secretary John Miller sat in his underground office beneath Lake Geneva. The complex was built deep into the rock, safe from prying eyes both human and alien. The walls were plain gray concrete. The only decoration was a large map of the solar system that covered one wall. Miller was a tall man with short gray hair and a serious face. He rarely smiled these days. Not since Lieutenant Peters had sent him the first decoded alien transmissions 3 months ago. A soft knock on his door broke his concentration. Intelligence Director Olivia Clark entered, carrying a tablet computer. She was shorter than Miller, with dark skin and sharp, alert eyes that missed nothing. "The team has finally broken the last layer of encryption," she said without greeting. She placed the tablet on Miller's desk. "It's worse than we thought." Miller picked up the tablet and read the decoded message. His face grew darker with each line. When he finished, he looked up at Clark. "The Purification Initiative," he said. The words felt bitter in his mouth. "They've been planning this for years." Clark nodded. "The Valturi, the Shintar, and the Erosians have been working together. They systematically eliminate potential rival species before they can become too advanced. 3 developing civilizations have already been wiped out in the past decade." Horing touched the tablet, bringing up images of 3 different planets. Each showed the same thing: massive destruction from what looked like asteroid impacts. All 3 suffered natural disasters. Clark continued. Asteroid impacts that the Council monitoring stations unfortunately failed to detect in time to warn them. "And we're next," Miller said. It wasn't a question. Yes. According to these coordinates, they're already positioning asteroids in the outer solar system. They're being very careful, very slow. The impacts would look natural. Miller stood up and walked to the map on the wall. He touched a control, and the map zoomed out to show the nearby star systems. "How long have we got?" he asked. "Based on the current positions, about 8 months before they make their final moves," Clark replied. "But we have an advantage they don't know about. We've been suspicious for years." Miller nodded. Earth had never fully trusted the Council. While openly pursuing peaceful relations, humanity had secretly prepared defenses. Contact Commander Morgan on the Starbound Envoy, Miller ordered. Tell him to proceed with Operation Watchful Eye, but remind him to maintain cover. We need more time. Far away from Earth, on the red plains of Mars, another piece of the puzzle was coming together. Mars colony stretched across the Amazonas Planitia, a vast flat plain near the Martian equator. Domed buildings connected by tunnels housed 5,000 colonists. In a special research lab beneath Olympus Mons, Dr. Greg Johnson worked late into the night. The lab was built around the strange artifacts discovered 10 years earlier during the first deep drilling operations on Mars. The artifacts were clearly not human in origin. They were made of an unknown metal that gave off a faint blue glow. They had markings that no one had been able to read. Until now. Dr. Amy Lewis entered the lab. She carried 2 cups of coffee. Her red hair was tied back and she looked as tired as Greg felt. "Any progress?" she asked, handing him a cup. Greg smiled for the first time in days. "I've done it, Amy. I've translated the markings." Amy's eyes widened. "What do they say?" Greg pointed to the largest artifact, a curved piece of metal about 3 feet long. "These aren't just random relics. They're records, historical records of the Council's formation. And look at this section here." He touched a series of symbols that glowed brighter at his touch. "This lists all the founding species of the Council, but there are names here that I've never heard of, species that aren't in any Council record now." Amy leaned closer. "What happened to them?" "According to this," Greg said, his voice low, "they are turned to the stars." That's the literal translation. But look at the dates. All of these unknown species disappeared within 50 years of the Council's formation, and all of them were listed as promising new members before they vanished. Amy's face paled. "They were eliminated." Greg nodded. "Just like the 3 recent civilizations, just like what they're planning for Earth. This has been going on for thousands of years." He turned to another artifact, this one shaped like a disc. "And here's something else. The technology that the Valturi claim they developed, their faster-than-light drives, their energy shields, their communication systems, it all came from these vanished species. The Valturi have been stealing technology, then eliminating the competition." Back on the Starbound Envoy, Commander Morgan gathered his team in a special room that was regularly checked for listening devices. It looked like a normal meeting room, but it had extra security features hidden in the walls. "Lieutenant Peters, report," Morgan ordered once the security system was active. Kate stood up. "Secretary Miller has confirmed our suspicions." The decoded messages reveal a plot called the Purification Initiative. The Valturi and their allies are planning to eliminate Earth using disguised asteroid impacts. Dr. Bell shook his head sadly. "So all these years of rejection weren't just about politics. They were buying time to set up our destruction." "Exactly," Morgan said, "and now we have new orders. Operation Watchful Eye is a go." Captain Wright looked concerned. "That's a significant escalation," Morgan nodded. "But necessary. We'll continue our diplomatic mission as cover. But our real job now is to gather intelligence on Council military capabilities and weaknesses." "And the defense systems back home?" Kate asked. "Being readied," Morgan assured her. "Earth has not been as trusting as the Council believes. The satellite network we've been building isn't just for communications." Sophia leaned forward. "So what exactly is our role here?" Morgan's face was serious. "We need to identify which Council species are part of the conspiracy and which are innocent or possibly even victims themselves. We need allies for what's coming." "And what exactly is coming?" Dr. Bell asked quietly. Morgan looked each team member in the eye before answering. "The Council thinks they're hunting us. They don't realize that we've known about them for months. When the time comes, Earth will not only defend itself, we'll expose the entire corrupt system." He touched a control, and a holographic image appeared above the table. It showed Earth's secret defense fleet hidden in the asteroid belt beyond Mars. 50 warships more advanced than anything the Council knew humans could build. "The Starbound Envoy isn't just a diplomatic vessel," Morgan said. "When the signal comes, we'll deploy the most advanced electronic warfare systems ever created. We'll blind their communications, expose their treachery to the entire galactic community, and help establish a new order. One built on real peace, not dominance and fear. The team looked at the hologram, then at each other. They had all suspected something was wrong with the Council. Now they knew the truth and knew that humanity had a plan to fight back. The emergency alert woke everyone at the same time. It was 3 a.m, Earth Standard Time. Around the world, military commanders, political leaders, and key scientists were pulled from sleep by the same urgent message. In the presidential residence in Geneva, President Laura Bennett was already dressed and moving toward the secure bunker beneath the building. She was a tall woman with short blonde hair, now in her second term as Earth's leader. 2 security officers walked beside her. "How many objects?" she asked into her communication device. 17 confirmed so far, Madam President, came the reply from Defense Secretary Miller. All have changed course in the last hour. They're now on direct paths to Earth. Time to impact. First object would hit in approximately 72 hours. President Bennett's face showed no fear, only determination. Activate the shield network and prepare the broadcast system. It's time to show our hand. Across Earth, hidden systems began to power up. What appeared to be ordinary communication satellites began to transform. Solar panels shifted position. Hidden compartments opened to reveal energy weapons. In orbit around Mars, another system activated. A network of stealth platforms, invisible to Council sensors, powered up their engines and moved into defensive positions. On the diplomatic vessel, Starbound Envoy, Commander Morgan received the alert in his private quarters. He immediately called his team to the secure meeting room. "It's happening," he told them when they arrived, still pulling on their uniforms. "The asteroids are on the move, 17 of them, all aimed at major population centers." Captain Wright's eyes widened. "That's sooner than we expected." Morgan nodded. "The Council must have decided to accelerate their plans after our last meeting. Lieutenant Peters, begin the electronic countermeasures. Dr. Bell, prepare the evidence packages for all non-conspirator species." Lieutenant Peters moved to a special control panel hidden behind a wall panel. She began activating the ship's secret systems. "We're ready, sir," she said after a few minutes. "On your command." Morgan took a deep breath. "Execute Operation Watchful Eye." Back on Earth, President Bennett sat at a desk in a broadcast studio deep underground. Cameras were aimed at her. Behind her was a simple image of Earth from space. "We're ready to broadcast globally into all Council frequencies, Madam President," a technician said. Bennett nodded. "Begin transmission." Across Earth, all communication screens switched to the President's broadcast. On the Galactic Council station, the same thing happened. In homes, businesses, and government buildings across 27 worlds, screens suddenly showed the human president. "People of Earth and members of the galactic community," Bennett began, her voice calm and strong. "For 30 years, Earth has sought peaceful relations with all spacefaring civilizations. For 30 years, we have complied with Galactic Council regulations, shared our culture, and demonstrated our commitment to peaceful coexistence." Her expression became more serious. "Today, I must inform you that we have discovered a terrible betrayal. We have irrefutable proof that certain Council species have conspired to commit genocide against humanity and other developing civilizations." On screens across the galaxy, the broadcast switched to show evidence. The decoded communications between the Valturi, Shintar, and Orosians. Sensor data of the incoming asteroids, historical records from the Mars artifacts showing the pattern of elimination stretching back thousands of years. In the Council chambers, chaos erupted. Representatives shouted questions and accusations. The Valturi High Minister Zex Valiran tried to call for order, but no one listened. That was when the second part of humanity's plan activated. From the Starbound Envoy, Lieutenant Peters launched the most sophisticated electronic attack ever created. The Council's primary communication network suddenly went dark. The conspirators could no longer coordinate their response. On Earth, the planetary defense grid fully activated. What the Council thought were merely communication satellites revealed their true purpose. They formed a network of energy platforms around the planet. Beams of concentrated energy shot out from Earth's orbit, targeting the incoming asteroids. The first 3 asteroids were vaporized instantly. Defense Secretary Miller stood in the command center beneath Lake Geneva, watching the defense system work. Beside him, Intelligence Director Clark monitored communications from across the solar system. All asteroids targeted, a technician reported. Estimated time to neutralize all threats, 6 hours. What about the Council response? Miller asked. Clark checked her screens. Confusion mostly. The Valturi are trying to launch ships, but our electronic warfare is keeping their navigation systems offline. The non-conspirator species are demanding answers. Several have already contacted our ambassadors to offer support. Miller nodded. Good. And our fleet? Admiral Collins reports all ships ready. They're awaiting the President's order to move. In her broadcast studio, President Bennett continued her address. We do not seek war. We do not seek revenge. What we demand is justice. For ourselves and for all species threatened by this conspiracy of genocide. She leaned forward slightly. To the people of the Valturi, Shintar, and Orosian civilizations, your leaders have hidden the truth from you. They have used you to build their power through the systematic elimination of potential rivals. We hold your citizens blameless. In the Mars Research Facility, Dr. Johnson and Dr. Lewis watched the broadcast along with the other scientists and colonists. The room was silent except for the President's voice. She's doing it, Amy whispered. Actually exposing the whole thing. Greg nodded. And look at the response data coming in from across the Council worlds. The non-conspirator species are outraged. The Delvarians have already issued a statement supporting Earth. On the Starbound Envoy, Commander Morgan watched as his team coordinated the electronic warfare campaign. Council security forces were trying to break into the ship, but the advanced shields held them back. Captain Wright, Morgan said, prepare for emergency jump. On my mark, take us to Rendezvous Point Alpha. Wright nodded and moved to the navigation console. Course plotted, sir. Morgan touched his communication device. Admiral Collins, this is Commander Morgan. The package is delivered. Phase 2 is now in your hands. Far away, in the asteroid belt beyond Mars, Admiral Ben Collins stood on the bridge of the flagship Terran Resolve. He was an older man, with dark skin and a completely bald head. His calm presence reassured his crew. Signal from Commander Morgan received. His communications officer reported. Phase 2 authorized. Collins nodded and straightened his uniform. Send to all ships. Deploy and form up. Jump to Epsilon Centauri on my mark. Across the asteroid. Belt, hidden hangars opened. 50 warships built in secret over the past 20 years powered up their engines. They were the most advanced vessels humans had ever built, incorporating both Earth technology and reverse-engineered systems from recovered alien craft. On the main screen of the Terran Resolve, Collins watched as his fleet moved into formation. The moment had finally come. All ships report ready, Admiral, his first officer said. Collins gave the order that would change the galaxy forever. Jump now. The 50 ships of Earth's secret fleet appeared near the Galactic Council station in a flash of blue light. Their sudden arrival caused panic among the Council security forces. No one had expected Earth to have so many warships, especially ones. This advanced Admiral Collins stood calmly on the bridge of the Terran Resolve. His ship was the largest in the fleet, nearly twice the size of the others. The bridge was spacious with stations for 20 crew members and a large central command area where Collins stood. All ships report successful jump, Admiral, his first officer said. We have surrounded the Council station. No enemy vessels have launched yet. Collins nodded. Open a channel to the entire station. The communications officer worked at her console. Channel open, sir. Collins straightened his uniform and spoke in a clear, strong voice. This is Admiral Ben Collins of the Earth Defense Forces. The Galactic Council is hereby temporarily dissolved pending investigation of crimes against sentient species. Any vessels attempting to leave will be disabled. This is not a conquest. This is justice. On the council station, panic turned to chaos. The Valturi, Shintar, and Orosian representatives tried to reach their ships, but found all docking bays locked, down by Earth's electronic warfare systems. The other species gathered in the main council chamber, demanding explanations. The Delvarian ambassador, Rilksik, an insect-like being with 4 arms and large compound eyes, was the first to publicly support Earth's actions. He stood in the center of the council chamber, his voice cutting through the noise. "The evidence presented by the humans is clear," Rilksik announced. "The Valturi and their allies have been eliminating developing species for thousands of years. We Delvarians formally request Earth's assistance in forming an interim governing body until this crisis is resolved." Other species quickly joined the Delvarians. The Foros, a species of plant-like beings who communicated through color changes, in their leaves, flashed their support in bright blues and greens. The Meridian representatives, tall beings with silvery skin who had always been neutral in council votes, stepped forward to join Rilksik. Back on Earth, military bases were transformed into temporary embassies as representatives from non-conspirator species sought asylum and alliance. In Geneva, Defense Secretary Miller and Intelligence Director Clark worked around the clock, meeting with these new allies. President Bennett had moved her office to the underground command center. She sat at a large table with holographic displays, showing the situation in space. Miller entered, looking tired but satisfied. 17 species have formally aligned with us so far, he reported. 4 more are expected to join within hours. Bennett nodded. And the conspirators? Isolated. Their leadership is contained on the council station. Their military forces are standing down under threat from both our fleet and now the combined forces of our new allies. We need to move quickly, Bennett said. The power vacuum won't last long. We need to establish the new governing structure before old rivalries resurface. On Mars, Dr. Johnson and Dr. Lewis made another critical discovery. They had continued studying the ancient artifacts and found something unexpected. Look at this section, Greg said, pointing to a series of symbols on one of the metal pieces. It lists the technological achievements of the Valturi when they joined the council. Amy studied the symbols. This can't be right. According to this, they barely had interplanetary travel, let alone all the advanced systems they later claimed to develop. Exactly, Greg said, excitement in his voice. Now compare it to this list of achievements from one of the species that returned to the stars just 50 years later. Amy's eyes widened as she made the connection. The Valturi's technological superiority isn't their own. They've been stealing innovations from other species, then eliminating them to hide the theft. And not just once, Greg added. Over and over again, for thousands of years. Their entire power structure is built on technological sabotage and genocide. This new information was quickly sent to Earth and then to Admiral Collins at the Council Station. It provided the final evidence needed to convince even the most doubtful species of the conspiracy's depth. On the Council Station, Commander Morgan's team had arrived after their emergency jump from the Starbound Envoy. They now worked with Admiral Collins and representatives from allied species to secure the station and detain the conspiracy leaders. Captain Wright coordinated with the station's security systems, many of which had been secretly compromised by Earth's intelligence agencies years earlier. "We've secured the main control center," she reported to Morgan. "The Valturi High Minister Zexa Valiron is attempting to delete records, but Lieutenant Peters has blocked his access." Morgan nodded. "Good. What about the other conspirators?" "The Shintar Queen representative is in her quarters, surrounded by her guards. The Orosian delegation has requested a meeting to negotiate surrender." Morgan smiled slightly. "Tell the Orosians we'll meet them, but there will be no special deals. All conspirators face the same justice." In a secure communication room, Lieutenant Peters worked with technical experts from 3 different allied species. Together, they were breaking through the last security protocols of the Council's secret archives. "We found it," one of the alien technicians announced. "The complete records of the Purification Initiative. Dates, locations, planning documents, everything." Kate looked at the screen, her expression grim. How many species? 42, the technician replied quietly. Over the past 8,000 years. On the Terran Resolve, Admiral Collins received a transmission from President Bennett. Her image appeared on the main screen of the bridge. Admiral, the coalition of aligned species has voted to establish an interim governing body, she informed him. They've asked Earth to lead it. Collins raised an eyebrow. That's a surprising development, Madam President. Bennett nodded. It seems our willingness to expose the conspiracy rather than simply defend ourselves has earned their trust. They believe we have the moral authority to guide the transition. And your response? I've accepted conditionally. We will lead, but only as part of a council with equal representation from all member species. The days of any single power dominating galactic affairs are over. Collins smiled. A wise decision. The fleet stands ready to support this new alliance. On Earth and cities across the planet, people gathered in streets and parks watching giant screens showing the developments in space. The initial fear caused by the asteroid threat had given way to pride and hope. Humanity had not only survived but had helped create something new and better. In Geneva's Central Park, a huge crowd cheered as President Bennett announced the formation of what would be called the Galactic Conclave of Free Species. 34 civilizations had already joined, with more expected to follow. Today marks the beginning of a new era, Bennett told the crowd. When aliens betrayed the Galactic Council, humanity did more than just survive. We seized the chance to build something better for all species who value freedom and justice. 6 months after what became known as the betrayal exposed, the repurposed Council station orbited peacefully around Epsilon Centauri. The station had been renamed Unity Station, and it now hosted the first conclave of free species. Representatives from 34 civilizations had gathered for this historic meeting. The station itself looked different. The old council symbols had been removed. The once restricted areas were now open to all species. Where the council chamber had been designed to place some species above others, the new conclave hall was circular, with all seats at the same level. Commander Morgan, now promoted to Admiral, stood beside President Bennett as they prepared to enter the hall. Morgan wore a new uniform with silver Admiral's stars. The past 6 months had been the busiest of his life, helping to build the new galactic order while ensuring security against any remaining threats. Nervous? Bennett asked with a small smile. A little, Morgan admitted. It's not every day you help reshape galactic civilization. Bennett nodded. Just remember, we're not conquerors or rulers. We're partners in building something better than what came before. They entered the conclave hall together. Representatives from dozens of species rose to their feet in respect. Some were familiar from the old council, the insect-like Delvarians, the plant-based Foros, the silver-skinned Meridians. Others were newer additions, species that had been denied council membership or had chosen to avoid contact with the old regime. President Bennett took her place at the speaker's position. She wore a simple blue suit, her blonde hair now showing streaks of gray from the stressful months. Representatives of the free species, she began, her voice clear and strong. Today marks the beginning of a new era in galactic governance. The old council failed because it was built on secrets, suppression, and the dominance of a few over the many. The galactic conclave will be different. She gestured around the room. All technologies will be shared. All policy decisions will be transparent. And any species that demonstrates the capacity for peaceful cooperation will have a voice. The hall erupted in applause and other signs of approval. The Foros flashed bright colors of agreement. The crystalline Zanari chimed their bell-like sounds of support. In another part of the station, the trial of the conspiracy leaders continued. The Valturi, Shintar, and Erosian leaders faced charges of crimes against sentient beings. Their trial was being broadcast across all member worlds so that citizens everywhere could see justice in action. Captain Sophia Wright had been given a new assignment. She now commanded the newly commissioned exploration vessel Horizon Seeker. Her mission was to contact the remaining undiscovered civilizations that had been marked for elimination on the conspirators' target list. The Horizon Seeker was the most advanced exploration ship ever built by humans. It combined Earth technology with the best system shared by the new allies. The ship could travel faster, scan deeper, and communicate more clearly than any vessel before it. "Final preparations complete, Captain," her first officer reported. "We're ready to depart for the Proxima Centauri system." Sophia nodded. "Good. Let's find these developing civilizations before anyone else gets ideas about purifying them." The Horizon Seeker departed Unity Station in a flash of blue light, the first of many missions to protect developing species rather than exploit or eliminate them. On Mars, the research facility beneath Olympus Mons had grown into something much larger. Dr. Greg Johnson had established the Galactic Heritage Foundation, dedicated to preserving the knowledge and cultures of extinct species and ensuring that their stories would not be forgotten. Greg stood in the main hall of the new facility, looking at the displays. Each one honored a species that had been eliminated by the conspiracy. Where possible, artifacts, language samples, and cultural information had been recovered and preserved. "The memorial hall is ready for the opening ceremony tomorrow," Amy said, joining him. She had been made assistant director of the foundation. "Representatives from 22 worlds will attend." Greg nodded. "Good. These species deserve to be remembered, and their innovations will finally be properly credited." One of the unexpected outcomes of the conspiracy's exposure was the discovery that many technologies used across the galaxy had originated with species later eliminated. The Valturi and their allies had claimed credit for innovations they had stolen. Now the true creators would be recognized. On Earth, in the underground complex beneath Lake Geneva, Lieutenant Kate Peters, now Ambassador Peters, worked with former Council security forces to establish the Conclave Peacekeeping Corps. This multi-species force was dedicated to preventing any single power from ever again threatening galactic stability. "The training program is showing excellent results," Kate told Defense Secretary Miller during their weekly meeting, "especially the joint human-Delvarian units." Miller nodded. "Good. The President wants a full report for the Conclave meeting next month. How many species are participating now?" 19, Kate replied, "with 3 more planning to join soon." Miller smiled slightly. "Not bad for a species that was marked for elimination 6 months ago." The most dramatic changes were visible on the homeworlds of the conspiracy species. The Valturi, Shintar, and Erosian populations, many of whom had been kept ignorant of their government's actions, began the difficult process of integration into the new galactic community. On the Valturi homeworld, new leaders had been democratically elected for the first time in their history. Human advisors worked alongside representatives from other conclave species to help rebuild their society on more transparent principles. As the first year of the conclave drew to a close, Admiral Morgan stood at the same observation window where he had once gazed at the old council station with frustration. Earthships now flew alongside vessels from dozens of worlds. Scientific exchange had accelerated technological development across all member species. Trade flourished without the artificial restrictions imposed by the former council elite. President Bennett joined him at the window. She had just finished addressing the conclave on the 1-year anniversary of the conspiracy's exposure. "We did it," she said quietly. "We turned their betrayal into the greatest opportunity mankind has ever known." Morgan nodded. "Humanity wasn't the strongest, the most advanced, or the most numerous species in the galaxy. But we were the most prepared. And when the moment came, we seized the chance," Bennett finished, "and built something better for everyone." Outside the window, ships from 34 worlds moved peacefully around Unity Station. Where once there had been distrust and secret plots, now there was cooperation and hope. The stars no longer seemed cold and threatening, but full of possibility. Morgan smiled. "So what's next, Madam President?" Bennett pointed to a distant star. "There, the Andromeda Galaxy. The old council never attempted contact beyond our own galaxy. The Conclave Exploratory Division thinks it's time we introduced ourselves to the neighbors." Morgan laughed. "Always reaching further." "That's what humans do," Bennett replied. "And now we've taught the rest of the galaxy to do the same."